This is 100.9 FM, Albany Community Radio. I'm Brian, and we have some guests in the studio today, Ivan and Darren. Now, these gentlemen are, well, I suppose you could call them Ghostbusters, but I guess paranormal experts. Would that be more like it, Darren?
Yeah, I suppose you could. I would like to be thought of an expert, but I don't think there is an expert in the field, but hey, we'll give it a shot.
Okay, but first and foremost, what is paranormal? How do you describe that?
It's actually quite huge when you think about it. It could be ghosts, it could be... Yeah, it's a bit of a leading question.
It's something that I personally look at as something that happens that we can film, a document that is abnormal. There's no real explanation for that happening, and that's what we're about. We like to look for the abnormal and possibly measure that. And if we can do that in a place that is reputably haunted, it sort of gives a bit of weight to the location. As something going on there.
Yeah. So when you say measure, how do you measure this activity?
We've got quite a few devices that we use. One of the most trustworthy one is obviously the video camera and my digital recorder. Now, one of the things we do is we try and capture EVPs, and that's electronic voice phenomena. So, say we're in a room, for example, and we're talking just like we are now, having a conversation, and we're playing the recorder. Now, we don't hear a voice or a response to the questions that we're asking, but when we play that recorder back later, more often than not, we'll get a voice.
Really?
And it could be answering our question, it could be saying something random, it could be saying a name, it could be anything. And that, when we look at that, that's a very, well, definitely in my opinion, I know Darren feels the same, it's a very solid piece of evidence because, especially if you know we were the only two in that room.
Yeah, it's definitely the best evidence we can kind of catch.
Yeah, so when you say you hear a voice, is it hard to describe where it's male, female, child, whatever, or is it just...
Sometimes it come out clear.
Does it?
Sometimes it come out clear and you can straight away say that was a woman or it's a young child.
Right.
Other times they can come out a little bit more garbled. Obviously it might be hard for them to come across and say something. They haven't got enough energy, so it may not come out as well and clear cut.
Okay, so where do you think that comes from, the voice?
Energy in the air.
Yeah.
This is one of our questions. This is one of our questions that we have.
We're very curious. That's what's spurred our interest in this field. I mean, everyone has their different beliefs, and we respect that. We're not out to change anyone's beliefs. We're almost for the skeptics, because we're sort of still skeptical ourselves. But going into these locations and finding pieces of evidence that is abnormal, paranormal, that's sort of... the funny thing is it leaves us asking more questions than getting answers, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, right. So in effect, as you say, there's more answers to be answered than the questions.
Yeah,
because you don't really get a full answer to a question.
No.
Because you just don't know for sure, do you?
We don't know.
Now, you've been in Albany for how long?
4 or 5 days now.
Yeah.
And I understand you've been down to the old convict jail.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you discover down there?
Well, that place was off the Richter, wasn't it, Darren?
Pretty good, yeah.
That was the first location that, look, we've been to a lot of places around WA, a lot of places that at night are very creepy. That was the first location we've been to where we're both looking at each other going, hey, you're coming with me. Yeah. You're not leaving me alone in this place.
Really?
That that place had some feelings about it. And we measured it. There was definitely a lot of electromagnetic energy in the air. And that's another one that we use, a K2 meter, which measures that.
Yep.
And if we get a reading on that and it's not near a power point or it's not near a power source, it's in the middle of a room where there's no power and we're getting a reading, it's thought of that is possibly a spirit.
Yeah. Do you also get a feeling when you go into a room that there's something there?
Ivan does. Yeah, you're the one that has a feeling.
Darren's probably more the... You're definitely more sceptical than me, which is healthy in this partnership because he comes in with a very scientific mind, and you're very keen to debunk the situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the jail, in the kitchen, Ivan definitely heard what we thought was a plate moving. But I'm the one that kind of comes in afterwards and goes, well, hang on, let's have a look. Let's see what the floorboards do. Let's see all the different things that can make this happen,
Yeah.
which is good. You need to do that. It's no good just saying, "Oh, I heard a plate going. That's it. This place is haunted."
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Because on the old Joe, where the kitchen is next door to the cell where you had a lot of that activity. Is that
Yes.
right? In the women's section, is it?
Yeah, well, we have a REM pod, a device called a REM pod. Now, you set this device up, it has an antenna. Now, Darren will correct me if I'm wrong. He's the tech man here. But I believe that measures electromagnetic
It creates
energy,
its
or
own EM field around the antenna, and when that field's broken, that's when the alarm will go off.
Right. Yep.
So it's not until you're fairly close. You'd only have to be sort of around about 100, 200 millimetres away from it before that alarm starts going off, and it gets louder as you get closer to that aerial.
Okay.
so we've got that set up in the cell that you're talking about.
Yeah.
No one's there. We're standing it back. Nobody's there. It hasn't gone off for
Hours.
say 10
was
hours.
at
Yeah,
that point.
hours. But say for instance we've just placed it in the cell and it's sitting there for maybe 15 minutes and we're doing our questioning, we're doing some EVP work, and all of a sudden it goes off like someone's touched it, but no one's there.
And it did?
Yes.
It did.
And it went straight up, and it was very, very loud, as if it went the strongest reading we can get, as if something came along and grabbed that aerial.
Does that happen often?
No.
No.
Before that, out of every other location we've been to, only one other location did that ever go off before, and it was very minor, and that was at the Freo Roundhouse. But before that, we've never had that thing go off at all. In fact, we wondered if it even
Guildford
worked.
Jail, it did go off a little bit, but
very,
it was minute.
teetering.
And
Yeah.
sometimes you debunk that. You think, well, what could that be? But this touch was full on, wasn't it? It was like someone came up to the antenna and just grabbed it.
So if you went back there today or tonight, would you expect to get the same result?
I'd like to think so, especially there.
Yeah, I look, like, nobody really knows.
No.
That's the beauty of this field, and I think that's why we love working in it. Nobody knows.
No.
Spirits move around, but that place, for some reason, there's one thing that I know personally I'm a big believer in, is residual energy. There's things that have happened in the past in a historic building, and it's almost like what happened in those days. The energy is absorbed in the walls.
Yes.
It's
yes.
like the energy, whether it's usually bad, things happen, and it absorbs itself in the environment. And more often than not, a lot of the EVPs and things we catch is almost like a sound recording from the past. We were at the Fremantle Roundhouse, and we're in one of the cells there, and we had footsteps on the roof above us. Nobody was there. Just footsteps on the roof above us.
It's just a roof.
No,
on its
it's
own.
a roof.
Yeah.
And then we found out later that the guards of the Roundhouse, there used to be a door up the top, and they used to walk along the top of the roof there looking down at the prisoners.
But again, we didn't know that until after the fact that we heard these voices, and we brought it up with them, saying, well, that was really weird, but we had voices upstairs.
Yeah.
There's nothing up there.
Well, that's a good point, because if you had these stories before you went into these places, you got this preconceived idea
Exactly.
that you could often think, well, you could make things happen yourselves.
That's
think,
it, in your mind.
that room did feel spooky because they told us there was an incident in there. So it's better, isn't it, to go into these places without any knowledge.
Definitely, and that's
Or
what
as
happened
little,
with the jail.
yeah, as little knowledge as possible.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the things, the videos that Darren creates, he's very clever at it, on our Facebook page that we do share with people that like this stuff. Even for skeptics as well. We're not. We'd like to think that everyone could watch our videos with an open mind. But one thing about these videos is we do like to share the history. We do love the history of WA. There's such a story to tell here, and that's what draws us to historic buildings, is the history that we can share in the video, and then also, hey, if we can find something there that correlates with that history, even better.
I think you were saying when we first met you out in the office there that the male section of the prison, you didn't get too much or anything or very little.
At first, we
feedback.
didn't get anything.
Yeah.
We expected that to be the hotspot. For some reason, there was no reason why. We just presumed.
Well, I can tell you why. Those cells were built for ticket of leave men, so they virtually had free reign. They could come and go as they pleased, within reason. You know, they could go out into the community and work. So they weren't convicts as such. You know, they weren't kept in those cells day after day and flogged and beaten or whatever. But over in the women's section, that was actually built after the convict period. That's when the jail became the town jail. And that cell that you're talking about, where you found this activity, because I used to do the night tours there, so I know a lot of the history about it. And that particular cell in the women's section next to the kitchen there, this is back in the latter part of the 19th century, a young girl whom had worked for one of the wealthy people in town as a housemaid. And the story goes that the man of the house had got this poor girl pregnant. And to get rid of her, they said that she had stolen from them, and she was arrested and taken to the prison. She was pregnant during the night. Apparently she had a miscarriage and bled to death. So I guess that would be a very traumatic experience for her, and so all of that energy is probably still trapped inside that room and those walls. Yeah.
Residual energy.
Yeah.
Residual energy, yeah. So, it's a pretty horrific thing that happened there. So I can guess that's, the reason why you picked that up in that particular spot.
Yeah, and we weren't told that was going to be a possible good location.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
We grabbed it.
Yeah.
That kitchen was crazy.
Well, go on.
Well, look, I had a personal experience there. So we call them personal experiences when we haven't documented it and we put it down as, hey, we can't measure it, so we've got to sort of leave it open. If we catch something that's definite, we'll say, hey, that's definite piece of evidence. But I was coming out of that kitchen and I swear I was walking out and I was looking over my shoulder because that place was giving me the creeps, and I swear a plate moved in that kitchen. And I jumped, didn't I, Darren? I jumped, I grabbed him and said, Darren, the plate's just moved. Yeah. And he quickly grabbed his camera, and I think we were both a little bit too freaked to go back in.
After that, I get nervous.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something, that in that kitchen, I had an interesting experience myself when we were doing the night tours there. I would get there about 4 or 5 in the afternoon to set up all the candles and lamps, because we did it by candlelight and lamplight. And with the tours would start 7 or 8 o'clock at night, depending on the time of year. Summer we started a bit later because it had to be in the dark. So in that kitchen area there, just by the door to the outside, on the table, I left a lamp. When we came back doing the tour that night, I noticed that the lamp was on the other end of the table. Now, no one had been in there prior to me being, or after me being there. And the person who was helping me then, I said, have you been into the kitchen? And she said, no, haven't been at the end of the jail tonight. So that lamp moved from one end of the table to the other. So now I don't know how that happened. It just did.
And we've had, we got still cameras on tripods scattered around the location. And all night we've had one facing sort of part kitchen and down the hallway of all the women's cells there. So we haven't had a chance to review that.
Right.
There may be something there that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, okay. So the old jail then has whetted your appetite, hasn't it?
Definitely.
Oh, we'd love to come back for sure. That place, that place will stick with me for a while.
Yeah.
Sure.
I can't wait to go through the footage, see if there's something there.
That's the thing. It does take time. We do an investigation. We go away. It does take time. We've got to go through all our footage. It is tedious work.
Sure.
But once we find those pieces of evidence, it makes it all worth it.
Yep.
And usually it's a late phone call at 11:30 at night. Hey, Darren, I've just found this. Or, hey, Ivan, I've just found this.
And I'll jump out of bed, go to the footage time, and
there it is.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, human sightings, or sightings of human figures, I guess, is what most people see as ghostly figures, don't they? What about animals?
We've heard of them, haven't we? We've heard of stories of animals, but we haven't actually caught anything like that.
Because, once again, at the old jail, many people, when we're doing the tours, because remember, it's all dark and just the odd candle and lamp, people would often say after the tour that they felt something brush up against their legs, like a cat. And in the room that is what used to be the officers' dining room, I think it's now something to do with the Anzac display. Did you remember that room?
Yes.
Now, that used to be the officers' dining room. And it used to be set up as that when we were doing the night tours. Now, at one end of the table, when I also tried the electromagnetic energy gauge, which I have, because we went round the jail with it, and we had the similar response as you did in the women's cell there. And on the table, put the gauge on the table at one end, and it moved. So we think that maybe there was maybe a cat or some sort of animal that may have lived in the jail that somehow or other is still hanging around there. So who knows?
One of the things we do sort of, and people always have, or a lot of people have the same experience, is shadows or seeing something in the corner of their eye. And a lot of people can actually, skeptical or otherwise, have that feeling.
Yeah.
Part of me believes that it's something that they're trying to keep away from you. But if you see something small, possibly animal, possibly, because I mean, if we come back as a spirit, why can't an animal?
Well, I guess that's the point, isn't it? I guess it could do. So, I understand you've also been out at Camp Quaranub.
Yes.
What happened out there?
We did that last night, and to be honest, it felt very peaceful. It felt very quiet. It was a lovely location.
very serene, very, very peaceful. I'd like to think that any spirits that came from that location are at rest.
Yeah.
Because it would have been a traumatic experience being in that isolation hospital, suffering from a disease or illness. But our personal experience was peaceful.
Right.
We did get a reading. We did get a reading down at the old graveyard there. I think Mr.
Joseph
Maguire and Joseph are buried there. We did get a reading there from our REM pod, but besides that, it was a peaceful night.
Yeah.
And we sort of look at that as a bit of a... we see that as like a successful investigation, really, because, I mean, it's a camp where kids go, they enjoy the activities there, it's for families, it's a kids' camp. I would probably be a little bit unnerved if I went there and the place was going off the Richter. But if any kids are listening, I think you can be rest assured and you can sleep nicely at night.
Although, on the other hand, the kids might really want to go there. 'Cause, kids like to be scared. We like to be, to be frightened.
Well, we still haven't even gone through our footage yet, so for all we know, we've got something great.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We don't know.
Another device that we use is a spirit box. Now, this device, it transfers through radio frequencies very quickly. Now, we'll put it on, say, an FM station, and we'll sweep in reverse. And this will sweep through very, very, very quickly through the stations, very quickly. And then it'll come through the speaker like white noise. Now, this is widely used in the paranormal field. A lot of investigators do use this spirit box, and we use it from time to time. Now, we at the jail, we had the spirit box running, and we were in the hall. And clear as day, a spirit calls my name, Ivan.
That's at the Great Hall.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
We both looked at each other and went, Ivan.
And what's beauty about that is that that's 2 syllables, and I love it when it's something a little bit longer than could be possibly one quick station. Because the station's going quickly, something could still come through very, very quickly. But if it's a 2-word or a 2-syllable, then you know it's swept over at least 1 to 2, 3 stations.
Right, and you recorded that, didn't you?
Yes, we've got that on video as well.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
When you get a direct response like that, like a name or a response to your question directly, I see that as an intelligent haunting. The spirits there know how to communicate, and they are communicating intelligently.
Yeah.
I look at that as a little bit different to residual energy. Residual energy is not intelligent. It's just a sound from the past that you capture. But when you actually get a spirit communicate in that way, that knows your name, can answer your question, it's more intelligent.
Yeah, and in the female ward, another time it went off, was you'd actually asked, please say a word. And no word of a lie, we've got it on camera, it said a word.
Really?
It was a bit cheeky. It said a word.
A word.
Those exact words.
They
And
have
I
a
thought,
sense of humour.
A bit cheeky. Yeah, it was a bit cheeky. So we caught that as well.
Well, so is the old jail then a nest of spirits, is it?
I
Or
would
parts
say
of it?
so. Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
Playground.
The playground.
But look, even the ghosts aside, it's a fantastic building.
Oh, beautiful.
It needs to be preserved.
Well, it does.
We
yeah.
need to preserve our
Yeah.
history here in
Yeah.
WA. I mean,
Yeah.
once it's gone, it's gone. And
That's true.
We've got such a story to tell here
Yeah.
of the convicts, the early settlers, what they went through, the hardships.
Yep.
To settle the place and the work they would have done here. There is a story to tell.
Well, there certainly is. So where's your next port of call?
We've got a few videos to put out, don't we, Darren?
Yeah, we're quieting down on the investigation front at the moment because we're sort of in talks with a TV producer that's possibly looking at putting a series through. So
Very good.
in the meantime, we've got about 4 or 5 investigations that we've got to create the videos for and get them out to the fans
on
on
our
the page.
Facebook page,
Yeah.
Paranormal
Yeah.
Hunters.
Yep.
Yep.
And so get those out first before we do any more investigating, and then
Probably Fairbridge Village. We'll
I
probably
would
go
say
to
go
the
back to
old house at
Fairbridge.
Fairbridge.
yeah,
Right. Was that quite a spooky event? Was it?
it wasn't
The spirit box was good.
silly. It wasn't. Yeah, it was a good night.
Yeah,
It wasn't. But actually, when we look at it, most nights we can sometimes walk away and go, you know what? I think we've possibly caught 1 or 2 things, which is good. We like that, so it's something we can get on the video. It's not until we go through our EVP recordings and our video do we find out, hang on, we've got enough here for a good 30-minute video and it's going to be jam-packed.
Yeah.
So,
Because everything we do is, we're not out to fool anyone, we're not out to trick anyone. I know Darren would feel this way too. If we were out to do that, we wouldn't bother. We are genuine guys who are doing this 100% truthfully, and we're out to find truthful evidence. We will not manufacture anything that is over the top or a lie. We capture truthful evidence, and if we go to a location and we don't get it, we don't get it. That's the sad fact of it.
Yeah.
Where
You're
that's
not
how
make
it
it
is.
up, though, are
We're
you?
not going to
No,
make it
no,
up.
no.
It is what it is. What we capture on the night.
Yeah.
And even then, we don't actually just call it evidence. We just put it on our video and let
Other
others
people
decide.
That's right.
They might
That's a
think
great
it's
way to look at it.
something else.
Yeah.
We don't say, "Oh my God, this is a ghost and it's doing this." We never say anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just there's a bit of video footage for you.
Yeah.
Take
make
it as
your
you
own
like.
mind up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make up your own mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because as you say, a lot of people are sceptical
Yes.
of all of
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Yes. And I guess as you say, you can't change people's minds.
No, not
You know,
at all.
people-
And we're not
some
out
people
to.
would- yeah,
We're not
that's
out
right.
to. We'd like
Well,
to say we're for
that's
the
right.
skeptics.
Yeah, that's right. Look, there either is spirits or ghosts, or there isn't, isn't it? But some of the activity that you have recorded here at the old jail would indicate that there is something there that is paranormal.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Would you?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
agree with that?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, then there's a fairly good, I guess, chance that what you're doing and what's there is actually something there that's trapped in that in that building. And forever.
I mean, one thing that does stick with me, it's a little bit of a sad story, but it does stick with me, and it has stuck with me ever since. Was at Fairbridge Village when we had the spirit box running down, and we don't like hanging around cemeteries. We do from time to time. It's more a respect thing. We think that is a place of rest, so we do it carefully. We do it not often. But when we do go there, we sort of go in there quickly and we'll see if someone wants to communicate. And at the cemetery there, right next to the church at Fairbridge there, I asked, walking around with the spirit box, I said, "Are you at peace?" And we got a straight out answer, "No." And then I said, "Can you tell us your name?" And then we got Lisa
Lisa, yeah.
come through.
But before that, for hours, we had nothing. And then after that, for hours, we had nothing. So
There's probably a lot of
It's a
Lisas that have
full
come
story.
through that place. So trying to identify who that is, that's but we just put it out there, and it is what it is. But that has stuck with me. So it's the unknown. But I'd like to think that people are at peace. But it's just the evidence we caught.
Yeah, so why do you think, if these spirits are in these places, why do you think they stay there?
they talk about being trapped. Personally, I don't know why someone would be trapped. If there's somewhere else, and like I say, I'm the sort of skeptic of the group.
Yeah.
If there is somewhere else that we're supposed to go afterwards, why they're trapped and they can't move on to that next stage, I don't quite understand.
Yeah, I mean, with the old jail and the women's section, the story that I've told you about the girl, and if that's where the activity is at its peak, then there is something there, isn't there?
Well, not necessarily. That might actually not be. That might just be residual. So she may have passed on, but there's this recording of her still in that room.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what we'd like to hope.
Yeah,
to be
because
honest.
I guess in a way, though, even the stones, whatever, absorb noise, sound, don't they?
Yes.
And maybe this is all in the brickwork there or whatever.
Yeah, and it's widely known that limestone and granite are one of the two main stones that will suck this in. That's what they believe.
Yeah.
And WA is just one big limestone block.
It is indeed.
I look at it from the point of view, my personal beliefs mean that we're all balls of energy. I think you can prove that scientifically, I believe. We are energy, right? We are energy.
Yeah.
Now, when we pass on, where does that energy go? The physical form of us is passed on. But that energy, is it still alive? Where does it go? Does it float into the atmosphere? Does it hang around? What does it do? That's probably my biggest question in this whole thing.
Well, it's a big question, isn't it? I guess you guys are trying to answer some of these questions, and many people have in the past. But you're right. I guess, we are just balls of energy. And when the physical body dies, what happens to the life force, the energy? Because we have this life force inside us, don't we?
Yeah.
That's right.
And, when someone dies, I've seen people die, and you can see the life force sort of leaving them. Suddenly, they're no longer alive. So whatever that bit is that creates, or why people are alive, where does that bit go? You can, if you're a religious person, I suppose you have your views, but if there isn't somewhere else, in somewhere, then these spirits or whatever they are must linger or go somewhere, or in some places like the old jail, wherever it is, perhaps they just linger. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and this is one of the questions we'd love to know the answer
Well,
to.
that's right. And I guess you're exploring those possibilities.
Yes.
Yes.
While checking out some great places in WA. That's actually the great part of it as well, isn't it? We've learnt so much about our state in the last year that we've been doing this.
And when we're spreading it out to the people on our Facebook page, we believe a lot of people don't even know a lot of these locations exist. I myself didn't understand or knew about these quarantine stations. I guess there would have to have been something like that, but I didn't know of them until we start researching locations to go to. Do we find that there's these sort of places around?
Well, the old jail here in Albany is one of the few left. A lot of them were destroyed many moons ago. So it's one of the few old convict prisons that are still left in Australia, other than the big ones in Tasmania and so on. The one there goes back to about the middle of the last century, the 19th century. So there's a lot of history that's been happening there. A lot of people have died. Babies have been born in the women's section, whatever. So a lot of spirits, if you like, have passed through there.
Well, talking about Camp Quarrenup, there was another investigation we did that was also an isolation hospital quarantine station in Coburn. The president let us in there. Jenny let us in there into the isolation hospital, and they had a crematorium on site in the bush, the old oven, where people that passed on from their sickness and illness were cremated.
Yep.
And that was an amazing story. And Darren's saying before about not knowing these places existed. Going there was just such an eye-opener.
Big time.
Not just for what people arriving on the boats, they arrived here, they were sick, or they had influenza or smallpox, diseases like that, and they'd have to go through these showers and get cleaned. Not that would help. And their stuff was fumigated. And then if it was decided that they had a disease that was life-threatening, or they were pretty much in a bad way, they'd go to the isolation hospital. Yep. Now, the nurses there, they were angels. They looked after these people that were suffering from their illness, and they could catch those illnesses too. And a lot of them did. A lot of them did. Yeah. And that place there, not only is it just it's just everything you can think of in a story is in that place. Yep. Of survival, of compassion, of love for your fellow man. That place was just amazing. And we caught some pretty impressive EVPs at this quarantine station. We did catch, and that's on our video on our page.
That was probably one of our most active places. Other than Albany, I tell you what, I reckon it's going to rival the quarantine station at Coburn.
Well, we're very proud to know that.
Yes.
we are looking, it's only in the early stages, there's nothing official yet, but we are possibly looking at doing night tours there with the President in the future. Right. Just so people can learn the history. Basically, that's learn the history, and if there's a paranormal edge to it,
that's right.
So be it.
Yeah,
but it's mainly to learn the history, and such a story.
Well, the same with the old jail here. As I said earlier, I used to do the night tours there, and not just for the local people, but tourists and whatever. And even local people, some of them have never been in there, and also to hear the history. They might have driven by, lots of times, but not realised the story behind the jail and why it was built, the number of people that were, through it over its life. So yes, history is important, and history tells us where we've come from, and history tells us where we're likely to go into the future.
Yeah,
so
hopefully,
exactly. Well, I guess, gentlemen, we must wind up. I'm getting the signal there. Ivan and Darren, thank you very much for coming in.
No, thank you for having us.
Yes, it's been a delight, and thank you for explaining the paranormal to a little bit. We're still, I guess, you haven't scratched the surface yet, and that the old jail is high up there on your list of haunted buildings.
We'll be back, and if there's any other locations that wish to open their doors, we will be definitely back here, because it's a great town. We've enjoyed being down here, and if anyone would like to check out our videos further on our Facebook page, Paranormal Hunters.
Yep. All right. Well, if anyone out there is listening and you have a home that you think is haunted, or a hotel, or a business of any description, give the radio station here a call, and we can put you in touch with these gentlemen here.
Fantastic.